This is the extratime.com Monday podcast. I'm Oisin Langan. Hope you're keeping safe and well. Coming up today, some actual League of Ireland chat. We'll be talking about one League of Ireland team playing another League of Ireland team. And that gives you the sense, doesn't it, that the league is getting closer. It's almost upon us. Tom O'Connor of extratime.com will join us for his usual roundup of the Irish in the UK and beyond. And he'll talk to us about the match he attended, Drogheda and Derry. TJ Reid, he's referred to as the magician. Normally, magicians pull rabbits out of hats. In this case, TJ needed to get a ball into a net, which doesn't seem so difficult when I say it like that. But when I tell you he was more than 20 metres out, or was out beyond the 20 metre line at a tight angle with most of the St Thomas's team between him and the goal, well, that goes to show how difficult a task he had, and he did it. He needed to nail it. There were 30 seconds left for play when he stood up. He had to get a goal, and he did, and Ballyhale Shamrocks are now through to yet another AIB All-Ireland Senior Club Hurling Final, where they will take on Ballygunner of Waterford, who reached their first ever All-Ireland Final, beating Schlockneil of Derry. We'll hear from TJ in a little while. We'll also preview Tipperary's season in Gaelic football. We'll hear from Stephen O'Brien, who'll talk about whether or not league is important, how important or otherwise it is to get out of Division 4. And Tipperary, is it fair to say icon? Well, she's certainly built a firm reputation for herself. Cáit Devane of the Tipperary Camogie players will also speak to us today. Not a bad weekend in the rugby either, was it? The Irish teams all going through to the last 16 of the Champions Cup. It's a competition that really does need to get to the knockout stages, because the pool stages have just been beset with annoying cancellations and debates as to who should be awarded a win or not. Not the organisers' fault in many ways, because, you know, obviously the pandemic wasn't created by them. But it's been a bit messy, so I'm glad it's got to the stage that it has. I'm glad all four Irish teams have gone through. In the Premier League, yes, lots of action over the weekend. And as Ronan Mullen from Off the Ball said, TJ Reid did a bit of a Marcus Rashford for Ballyhale Shamrocks. Rashford with that injury time goal to give United a big win. Plenty of other places you can get a lot more detail on the Premier League weekend. And, we'll keep it to the League of Ireland, but we'll get into the Premier League when it's important. Before we hear from Tom O'Connor, before we hear from Cáit Devane and Stephen O'Brien, let's hear from the magic man himself, the magician TJ Reid, who spoke to Brendan Hennessy of KCLR.
Simple one, how do you do it?
Just pure luck. I'm sure there's someone up there looking down on me, so they are. But look, just massive relief, to see there's some difference when the Leinster final by 15 points in terms of celebrating and in terms of winning by a point. Yeah. There's some difference, and the joy on everyone's faces, because that's what sport is all about. When you're put to the pin of the collar in a dogfight and you come out on top, it's a massive relief.
A man of your calibre, you said to yourself, I have to score this goal, we're down, we need a goal, time is up. What was actually going through your mind? Did you pick your spot before you hit it? What did you do? What was preparation? A lot of young fellas listen now, young girls, camogie players, how do you do it?
Just bury it.
Go low?
No, look, I asked the referee, how I was there, and he said 30 seconds. So I said, look, I've only one option, is to strike this as hard as I could. And look, just I struck it on the sweet spot, and I knew the minute I struck it, the fair chances of going in. I actually didn't see the ball going in because I was concentrating on my strike, and I just seen the net rattle, and I went through a few bodies, and and in times like that, it's nearly worse having loads of bodies on the goal, because it's very hard to remove around and twist and turn. Lads are blocked off, so I knew if I struck it, because there was probably 4 or 5 lads there together.
Well, you were 22 yards out as well.
Yeah, and I said I was striking in the middle of them because it's very hard to move and to get a block on it. But look, it's just obviously just blessed.
The penalty went well too.
Yeah, I struck that well too. But last night, I'm relieved now, because last night I put the bosh of the hurl in the bucket of water last night, just to add more weight to the bosh, and it just shows difference on the 2 strikes I had, that they went off lovely on me.
Okay, final question. You said it to Liam, the journalist there a moment ago, like you said, you got out of jail twice. I think you got out of jail 3 times. St Ryan's extra time, Mount Leinster Rangers and Carlow in the semi-final, and you certainly got out of jail today. Yeah,
we did. Look, and I suppose, I think people and maybe spectators are expecting us to beat teams by 10, 15 points all the time. So I think people have to forget that You know, we're going to be, I suppose, brought to the wire at some stages, and teams are going to do as much as they can to try and beat us, and those games are tough, and I think those games are going to stand to us down the All-Ireland final. You know, we're after having massive tough games, and I think, and even today it was tough. It wasn't perfect. I think we only scored 15 points in total, which we were averaging 25, 26. So that's very poor from our standards. So I think going into the Ireland final, we have homework to do. We have improvements to do, which is great, because, you know, if you're going into the Ireland final and nothing to improve on, you're asking yourself questions. So at least today now, we're over the hurdle. We have 3 weeks. A few lads went off injured there. But look, I think they have 3 weeks to get themselves right. But look, a massive day for the parish again. You know, Club All-Ireland is a spectacular occasion, for everyone involved. And Ballygunner are coming with this for the last number of years. They've 8 county finals in a row, a few Munsters, but I know deep down that an All-Ireland final is their goal. And we're on their way. And I suppose, they're on our way as well, so I've no doubt it's going to be a great game of hurling.
TJ Reid at it again, 2 goals towards the end, one with pretty much the last puck of the ball to get his team, Ballyhale Shamrocks, to win, and as I say, they'll face Ballygunner in the AIB All-Ireland Senior Club Championship Hurling Final. This is the ExtraTime.com Monday podcast. Tom O'Connor of ExtraTime.com joins us. Tom was at Drogheda against Derry on Friday, I think it was. I'm very eager to see how Trialist A got on, and also Trialist B. Tom, actually, before we get into the roundup, was there any of that nonsense in your game?
We had 2 Trialists, Oisin, yeah, and I suppose, look, I'll talk about them at the end. Like you say, we'll probably do the roundup. We'll stick with tradition. We'll do the roundup first, and then we'll go to the League of Ireland at home to finish up with, and then we'll get talking about Trialist A, Trialist B, Trialist 1, 2, 3.
I get why teams do it. I presume it's so no one knows who they're looking at, because if other teams know, then they might become interested as well, or it'll skew the value of them, good or bad. But it's silly, because surely, like, everyone knows. Like, every team knows that this guy, in this case, I'll say guy because it isn't the men's league we're talking about, that, you know, this lad played a match for Derry or Harps or Galway or whatever. Well, or are they just better at keeping secrets than any other sport in the world?
Well, look, Finn Harps, we heard earlier, towards the end of the weekend, they announced the signing of they unveiled the mystery of their Rey Mysterio, so to speak.
Yeah.
He had played for them on Saturday. Look, I was at Derry Drogheda. We'll go into it a bit of detail after, but the team sheets were down. Both trialists were named on the team sheet, and the advice was, listen, look, there's the team sheet. Don't let that go out. And obviously it didn't. And by the end of Saturday evening, trialist A, so to speak, or whatever you want to call him.
Yeah, did they give any reason, Tom?
Was out. Well, look, his name was out. We were told, listen, don't release the name. So I didn't do anything, and was reading reports from the match, and there was an interview, and the trialist was named in the interview.
Okay. But did anyone actually say, don't name who this person is, and here's why? Like, do we know why have I actually nailed it as to why they don't name them and don't want them named, or is there another reason?
Well, no, I think you're right. I think that's my understanding as well. And look, the person who told me, hold off, he was only receiving information from the other club, from Derry, who it came from Derry, on what side. Was it staff? Was it a media officer? Was it a journalist? I don't honestly know, but I was just told, listen, don't do anything, and then by the evening. And
you just happened to be at Drogheda and Derry. I'm sure if you went to any other friendly, it might well be the same. What I don't get, though, is how they think the name won't get out there, because it always seems to. Anyway, listen, we'll come back to that game in just a moment, because I do actually want to talk about that match itself, and actually you being back at a League of Ireland game. And I appreciate crowds kind of came back last season, but this was Freedom Weekend, and it was, have at it at everything. It was like there was barriers, and then all of a sudden it was like the Berlin Wall coming down, everyone just flooding across. Probably a bad comparison. Let's talk about the Irish in the UK and possibly beyond. How did they get on this weekend?
Well, look, we'll start with the Women's Super League. So Reading played Birmingham and we saw an assist for Lucy Quinn, but on the flip side, we saw a bad injury to Grace Maloney. So we pass on our best wishes. Grace was taken off. Reading were 2-0 down, but she was taken off. They rallied around and ended up winning 3-2. So look, we pass on our best wishes to Grace Maloney on that. Another goalkeeper, Brighton's Megan Walsh, she kept a clean sheet against Chelsea. And then Nisha McAloon, she made her debut a league below as Durham drew 1-1 against Sheffield United. So in terms of the Women's Super League and the league below, it was mainly about goalkeepers this weekend. In the English Premiership, Matt Doherty, we saw during last week, Matt Doherty came on as a sub against Leicester. He obviously hasn't been getting as many games at Spurs as he would have been when he was at Wolves. He came on as a sub during the week against Leicester and recorded an assist. They won 3-2. They were 2-1 down after 94 minutes and beat Leicester with goals in the 95th and 97th minute during the week. Got the nod then this weekend against Chelsea. Started right midfield, but Spurs lost 2-0 against Chelsea. So an up and down week for Matt Doherty in the Premier League. In the kind of closer to the bottom of the league, we saw Adam Ida scoring his first Premier League goal last weekend against Everton. Norwich are in a bit of a roll, and so was Ida, because last week he got a goal, this week he got an assist as Watford were beaten 3-0. Obviously a double there for Josh Sargent, and Watford recorded two good wins in a row. Elsewhere, we had down the league, we had James Collins netting for the second week in a row for Cardiff. They lost 3-2 to Bristol City. Max O'Leary, goalkeeper's getting his run in the side there for Bristol City. And obviously we saw Callum O'Dowd, who got a bad injury at the start of the season, starting to come back into the side again. Ryan Manning scored a peach of a goal against Preston, and that was Swansea's winner. Scott Hogan, he scored against Preston last weekend, and then this weekend he scored against Barnsley. Another guy scoring regularly is Will Keane, scoring the league below. So he scored a brace of goals as Wigan beat Gillingham. Up in Scotland, Ross Tierney, we knew he left Bowes to join Motherwell, came on as a sub and earned a penalty for Motherwell. They beat Morton 2-1 after extra time. And another ex-League of Ireland man, Jays Kebia, scored a brace on his debut for Falkirk. He came on as a sub as well, and he actually replaced a former League of Ireland man in the shape of Westmead's Aidan Keena. Also then you had a clean sheet for Dundee's Ian Lawler as they beat Dumbarton. Liam Scales started and he recorded an assist for Celtic against Alloa, and ex-UCD man Conor Salmon scored for Alloa. During the weekend then we also saw John Mahon depart Sligo Rovers to sign for St Johnstone on Sunday, and he's obviously the second central defender from the League of Ireland to join the SPL's basement side, as Dan Cleary of Dundalk, previously of Dundalk, joined in St Johnstone as well during the Christmas break. And Cleary played in the Saints' 1-0 cup defeat to Kelty Hearts on Saturday. And Kelty are managed by Kevin Thompson, who's a former teammate of Tim Clancy at Hibs. Both men were signed by Pat Fenlon and both left the club in the January transfer window of 2014, where Clancy incidentally went on to join St Johnstone, for whom, like we mentioned, John Mahon joined this weekend, and we wish him the very, very best of luck. And as if I'd planned this, Tim Clancy was also at Head in the Game Park on Saturday, along with myself. The former Drogheda United boss, obviously now in charge of St Pat's, was watching his former side take on Derry City, for whom I presume we're going to talk about that game now.
We are, and just one other bit of news there, former Dundalk player Matthew Tipton, unfortunately losing his job. He was the manager of Portadown up until last night, if you're listening to this on Monday. It's a bit harsh on him because, well, they lost Lee Bonus. He went to Larne for 100 grand. I mean, that tells you how much the Irish League has moved on, that clubs are able to spend that kind of money on a player. Now, Larne have a private backer, so that's where their money is coming from. But he relatively recently signed a long-term deal. And of course, when the window opened, he brought in a few players. Now, unfortunately for Joe Gorman, despite his apology, of course, the apology and the explanation came after the club cancelled his contract. it was too late. But just another bit of news there. Matthew Tipton. Never nice to see anyone lose their job. Matthew Tipton is a guy I spoke to regularly while covering the league for BBC Sport, and it's just a pity to see anyone lose their job. Now, you, as you say, were at that Drogheda Derry game. You saw Tim Clancy there. What was the game like? What was the score?
1-1 draw. Look, a lot of interviews are going to come out with the following, over the next month. Look, typical pre-season. You saw lads who weren't maybe up to match fitness. You saw lads, first touch maybe possibly wasn't as sharp as it will be in a couple of weeks' time. You saw lads getting used to each other. Huge amount of both sides of signings on both sides. It's only coming down the road with Dara, and we would have watched Drogheda play a couple of times over the last couple of years, and I was explaining them, the amount of players who've actually left, and for Drogheda have been decimated. Like, let alone the fact they've lost the likes of Mark Doyle to Pats. James Brown obviously went over to Blackburn. Then on heading the opposite direction, heading west, you had Jordan Adiemo heading over to Galway. David Odamusu. We still, there's a lot of rumours that he's heading to England, different places in England, supposed to be on trial with a couple of clubs in England and stuff, but nothing has yet been agreed. He didn't play, wasn't part of the matchday squad on Saturday, so you'd have to say that doesn't, that probably, I'm not going to say he's definitely going, because you never know till deals are signed, but obviously it didn't look good for Drogheda that he was going to stay. So, look, Drogheda's side is massively changed, like I mentioned earlier on, with Dan Cleary going over to St Johnstone. We also saw Dan O'Reilly left for Hamilton in the window as well. So, Drogheda, it's a rebuilding job, lost the manager as well. Kevin Doherty stepped up from assistant to the hot seat, and bringing in the experience of Dara Doyle as well is going to be a good move. So, look, and speaking of experience, you saw Keith Cowan moved from Dungannon, obviously ex-Finn Harps man. So, there was a bit of bite in a few of his tackles against Derry City, as you'd expect for a Donegal man. But look, Drogheda could do okay this season. Derry, like you say there about Larne splashing the cash. Look, Derry didn't get Michael Duffy and Patrick McElhenney for peanuts like there, and Brandon Kavanagh, Brian Maher, these guys going to Derry, they're not going for nothing. Like, so Derry, they have the nucleus of a very, very good side. Look, they weren't all there on Saturday. There's quite a few missing. Look, we'd no Patrick McElhenney on Saturday. You'd no Joe Thompson, who would have been quite a central figure in the middle of the park for them last season. You had no James Akintunde, Cameron Dummigan, another to leave Dundalk, wasn't there, and the aforementioned Brian Maher as well. He wasn't playing. So look, it was kind of skeleton side for Derry, and look, that kind of told. The performance was patchy, but look, it's early in pre-season for it. Like,
who stood out to you?
Drogheda's left wing back, a guy called Evan Weir. League of Ireland fans will probably be familiar with him at UCD, and he left at the end of the season. He signed for Maynooth Town. He's in college at Maynooth, and he ended up signing for Drogheda on the back of, I think it was James Clark, is at Maynooth as well, and is obviously playing for Drogheda. I just mentioned him. He's going to be Evan Weir. He's going to be a good player.
And what was it like to actually be back at a game? And I appreciate it probably wasn't the biggest crowd, and I'm not sure even if it was one of the games that allowed a crowd, because some of these pre-season friendlies have no crowds and the clubs don't want crowds, and I understand that. But was there a sense of, we're back, football is back to normal, crowds are back, everything's cool?
To be fair, there was a decent crowd. As far as I know, it's Drogheda's. It's one of the only games in the League of Ireland so far that has a crowd back. And what they did was, because because Drogheda took such a big squad, Drogheda pretty much changed their whole squad at halftime. So all the subs had to sit in the stand. And look, you know as well as I do, the media box, that stand there is quite small. So what they did was they put anybody who's coming into the ground who wasn't either media or players was put to the far side. So on our side, it was quite, there was a nice wee bit of space. Look, Derry always take a nice wee media crew. And like I said, Drogheda had a nice amount of subs. So there was a bit of space, and on the far side then the stand looked to be, I won't say packed, but certainly on the way back. So that was the only major change, that the Drogheda subs would have been sitting up in the stand, which look, from last season we'd have been used to seeing, but prior to that it would be quite an anomaly.
But was there a sense of joy among the fans? I know they were on the far side to you, but was there a sense of joy among them? A bit of glee, maybe a bit of excitement?
Yeah, it wasn't like the games last season where there was no atmosphere because there was no, there was kind of flat. There was that sense of tension's the wrong word. Crikey, it's the first friendly pre-season, but there was a sense that it kind of matters again.
Yeah,
which is good to hear, and good to see.
Okay, I have to say I can't wait to get back to a game. I didn't get to go to that because where was I on? That game was on Saturday, right?
Yeah, Saturday 2:00.
I was walking up Slieve Gullion on Saturday. Believe it or not, I actually took a Saturday off.
It's all right. I covered for you.
Good man.
That's what we cover for each other.
Good man. No, looking forward to getting back now. Next Saturday, it's Glentoran against Warren Point at the Oval. Okay, Tom O'Connor of extratime.com. Thank you for joining us on the extratime.com Monday podcast.
No problem, Machine. Take care.
We are delighted to be joined now by FBD ambassador and Tipperary camogie player and all-star Cáit Devane at the announcement of the new naming rights partnership between FBD Insurance, Ireland's largest homegrown insurer, and Tipperary's Semple Stadium. The 5-year deal will see the stadium renamed as FBD Semple Stadium. FBD comes on board as naming rights partner, having been sponsors of the Tipperary Club Championship for the past 3 years and of Tipperary camogie since last year. Cáit Devane, how are you?
I'm good. Good
to hear. This is a great day for Tipperary, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's very exciting. I think across the board, chatting with Paddy, Stephen and Niamh, that the 4 codes being represented, and I suppose as people from Tipperary, that we know how lucky we are to have Semple Stadium on our doorstep. So to have FBD come on board, have the naming rights and show such support to the GA and across the 4 codes is something that we're thrilled about.
Talk to me about FBD Semple Stadium and what it means to, I suppose, both Tipperary people and people like yourself who represent Tipperary.
A special stadium. I suppose you ask any camogie player, footballer, hurler, whoever it is, what's their favourite stadium, and if it's not Croke Park, 9 times out of 10 they're going to say it's Semple Stadium. So I think it has a special mystique about it, and not only as a player, I suppose I remember going to support Tipperary when I was young, or going to support my local club, Clonty Rossmore, in different county finals and that, and I always have a vivid memory of the experience of the atmosphere at the different games, Munster finals. I remember one against Waterford and one against Cork. I think I was in there when I was on the terrace, when I was in the stand, and 2 very different experiences, and just at that age feeling engulfed by the crowd that were around you. There's something very special about it. And then I suppose as a player, I was privileged enough to get to play there wearing the blue and gold, and it's something that will stay with me for a long time, and something that I don't take for granted. We're lucky here in Tipperary that some of the Coming Munster finals are actually played in Semple Stadium as well, kind of in the early summer. So I would have experienced it from a young age, and like that, it was something I think that was brilliant as well, because it kind of sets the seed in young players that they get a run out in FD Semple Stadium, and they kind of say, I want to get back here again, so and that for me was something that I remember when I played there the first time. I think it was in 5th or 6th class with Balloch NS, my local primary school. It was something that I was like, yeah, I kind of be cool to come back here, maybe with a Clonty jersey or a Tipperary jersey on. And because I got the experience of it so young, I think it was something that I aspired to, but not feared, if that makes sense. So when I did get back there then in a Tipperary jersey, it was something that kind of excited me as opposed to something that overwhelmed me, because it's a pretty special stadium.
You don't strike me as someone who gets overwhelmed. So when you became a social media sensation, I imagine that did not overwhelm you. You know what? I was about to tell the story of what happened, but I think I'll let you tell it.
Yeah, a strange one. It was county semi-final against Burgess Duhara up in the camogie grounds in the Rag, and I found myself with half my hurley, and I also found myself with the ball in my hand. So I had a bit of a predicament. So I kind of made a run out of the ruck Luckily enough, the half I had was the boss, so I was able to solo out of the ruck. And before I knew it, I had my brother, who was actually doing hurleys at the time, running along beside me with the new hurley, but the game was still on, so I just kind of said to him, throw, and he threw it, and I dropped the half a hurley and caught the full hurley, and that's kind of how the story went.
And how does it feel to have had a skill of the game named after you? A week later, I was doing a match in Cork and someone did pretty much the exact same thing, and Mark Landers, who was on analysis and co-commentary, just shouted Cáit Devane. It's a bit like Brick Welsh. I don't know if he invented the brick flick, but he mastered it and he's associated with it. So anytime anyone does that from here on in, it's referred to as the brick flick. If anyone does what you did, it will be called the Cáit Devane. How does that feel?
Look, it's kind of cool, I suppose, but we won't think about it too much. It was something that and to this day, when people mention it to me, it's like, how did you think about doing it? And to be honest, I didn't even realise what I had done until after the match when we had won, and someone said, what happened over there? I kind of, it didn't even dawn on me. It was kind of one of them things where you were kind of just completely just playing in the moment. Do you know what I mean? It didn't even feel weird, like, you know. So it's a funny one. And look, I suppose without maybe COVID or that, it might have been recorded. And if someone said that it happened, you mightn't even believe it. So look, that's the beauty of it.
And I know at the time all you were thinking about was getting a hurley in your hand, but in retrospect, you were representing camogie at that time, and an awful lot of people who, for whatever reason, wouldn't have watched camogie before or wouldn't have followed it, saw a skill being executed under pressure, and that was a really positive representation of your sport. Again, retrospectively, because I imagine you weren't thinking about this at the time. Is that a good thing? Is that a very positive thing for the sport itself?
Yeah, well, look, I suppose, like you said, it got so much traction on social media. It could only be a positive. Like it was something that highlighted the game. And like I said to you before, so many games were streamed during the lockdowns and that, and have continued to be on social media and streamed on different platforms, and are so easily accessed. I think that is a massive positive, you know. And like you said, yeah, like it's something that gets young girls out trying it, if that's the case, or young boys, or whatever it is, or if somebody who'd never seen the game before clicked on it and got something from it, like then it has to be a positive, you know.
And that was the real positive. It wasn't a woman or a man executing a skill, it was a hurler executing a skill.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And look, that's the way I think that has happened over the last couple of years, that we're seeing now as GA players, as athletes, as players, as opposed to boys or girls or women or men, you know, and I think that's across the board, you know, and it's a massive, I think that's a massive step. I know we speak about publicising, we say the women's game a little bit more, but I think once conversations are happening about players and not identifying them male or female, I think that's a real progression.
Talk to me about Tipperary. You're close, but not as close as you would like to be. How do you close the gap in 2022?
Yeah, I think you said a mouthful there. Like we're thereabouts. Last year, league semi-final, All-Ireland semi-final, and yet we don't have really anything to show after it, you know. So it's a tough one, I suppose. But I think, you know, when you kind of sit back at the end of the year and kind of over the winter, over Christmas, and kind of reflect, you kind of have to say, well, we are doing a hell of a lot of things right. To be where we are, you know, and to be in the mix. I think we have made progress. But I think, you know, as a group, and I suppose the conversation around Tipperary camogie, that this is a big year for Tipperary camogie and we need to make the big, you know, like we've been speaking about that now for a long time, you know. So I do think that it's just down to us now as a group and driving on. And look, it takes an awful lot of hard work to get where we were last year, and there's no guarantee that we'll get back there again this year, you know, because like Tipperary are one of many counties that are setting out their stall good and early and hoping to do great things this year, you know. So you can't take anything for granted, like, and you just kind of have to do the best that you can with the resources that you have, and see where that gets you, you know. And And look, yes, we have made good progress the last 2 years. There's no point in saying we didn't, but it is disappointing as a group then that we come out and we haven't any silverware won after it. It's a little bit moral victories. 3 or 4 years ago, the one word that I would have used, I suppose, that was kind of frustrating us as players was the word consistency. And maybe a little bit of belief that, we were working hard, but when push came to shove, we'd have a brilliant performance and then we'd dip and then we'd be up and down. And I think in the last 2 years, consistency has definitely improved with us. So that is a positive. And I think the belief in the group has improved as well. So like you said, massive positives to be taken from it. And when you do reflect on the year as a whole, there is an awful lot right being done. But we still need to find that extra percent and need to raise the bar again, because there are teams ahead of us, and that's the long and the short of it, So we need to get up there and we need to improve ourselves and get better every year.
And what about yourself? How do you now look at the season ahead and the start of a season at this stage of your career as compared to earlier in it?
Different. I would say a little bit different. I suppose I kind of listen. I hope I'm not considering myself really old yet to be still playing, but I would listen to my body a little bit more, I suppose, than I would have before. Before, once New Year came, I was, relishing pre-season. I don't relish it as much now. But no, it is. It's definitely, I suppose, you're just listen to your body a little bit more, and you just get clever with what you do in the gym. And there's probably a little bit more prevention exercises and that kind of a thing. Now, to be fair, we've been lucky with Bill Mullally, with Tip. He's very kind. Like I said, we got to the county final with the club last year, so he was very generous. He gave an extra couple of weeks off to a couple of us that were busy for a long year last year. So that did help, I suppose, and not only physically but mentally as well. It's nice to kind of get a definite off season. So it's nice to switch off, and then you're energized and enthusiastic again to get going.
I guess the rest is as important as the training, but do you find resting difficult? Because as any top level athlete will tell you, or people who have worked with top level athletes will tell you, getting athletes to rest is quite difficult.
Yeah, in season, I'd say I would. When I'm in the middle of a season, be it club or county, it's full on. To be honest, everything I'm doing is kind of focused on, I'm training tonight, so I have to have lunch at this time, or there's a match on Sunday, so I need to go here on Saturday to make sure that I can. So everything is zoned around it. I would struggle in season, I suppose, to make sure that you're getting downtime and kind of switching off. But I suppose that block before, during and after Christmas, that kind of month, I suppose, it's kind of a nice time just to completely decompress and leave the hurley down and not worry about having to be in a gym or at a field at 7:00 on a Monday, Friday and Sunday morning. And it's just nice to have the unknown. I'd be fairly laid back, and it's nice. People would often give out to me that they'd ask, what are you doing tomorrow? And I'd say, I don't know, ask me tomorrow and I'll tell you what I'm doing, So that's kind of, I don't plan too far ahead during that month when it's off, and I just kind of go with the flow of it. So that's kind of a prized time for me where I can kind of just switch off.
Cáit Devane, the Tipperary camogie player, on becoming a social media sensation, and her preparations for games and training now that she's a little bit later in her career. Stephen O'Brien will be part of the Tipperary football panel for their Division 4 campaign. He'll also hope to lead Tipperary into a long championship summer. At the FBD Semple Stadium launch, I also spoke to him, and I started by simply asking him how he was.
I'm very good, Oisin. Thanks for having me on.
Stephen, you've played both football and hurling for Tipperary. Talk to me about your relationship with this very, very special stadium.
Well, the FBD Semple Stadium is a historic place, not just for Tipperary sports people, but for many sports people throughout the country. I suppose Thurles and Croke Park are kind of seen as these sacred grounds and stuff like that. So it's a stadium that is ingrained with history and with many memorable moments and games. So we're hoping to have our own memorable moments and games in the new FBD Semple Stadium.
I have a two-part question for you. One, what's your favourite memory of this venue as a player? And 2, what's your favourite memory as a fan?
As a player, we won a Munster under-21 football final in 2015 in FBD Central Stadium. So that was one of my greatest achievements in the stadium in terms of inter-county, but also with the club. We won a county intermediate final in FBD Central Stadium back in 2013. So the two of them as a player have been two great highlights in the stadium. We had a good crop of players in that age group. Many of us were part of the 2011 minor success, and most of us were part of the 2012 Munster success, and we unfortunately got beaten in Ireland quarter final. But we'd stuck together since then, and many of us had joined the under 21 team straight after minor. So we'd been there for 2013, 2014, and 2015. Unfortunately, in 13 and 14. We lost the Munster final to Cork both times. So I'd say that's where the kind of pundits were coming from, that maybe Tip had success in minor but haven't been able to bring it through to under 21. But we believed in that group. We knew we had underachieved actually in the minor ranks with this age group in 2012. So winning the Munster final was a key focus of ours, and to us was something that was the realistic goal and something we expected to do.
What is it that players love about this pitch? There's a saying that if you can't hurl there, you can't hurl anywhere. And I'm sure that's the same for football. If you can't play it there, you can't play it anywhere.
I suppose the pitch itself is always in top class condition. The lads there that look after the groundwork and stuff like that are some of the best in the business. The pitch is always in top-notch condition and stuff like that. So you can have no excuses in terms of a dirty bounce of a ball or anything like that. And also, I suppose it's the crowd is close to you, and the sound tends to reverberate around the stadium and stuff like that. And it tends to get some of the more bigger matches. So the stadium tends to be full, and it's like a cauldron at times. And as I said previously, that there's a lot of history within the stadium of great matches. So I think unknowns to players that their performance tends to rise an extra 5 or 10%.
Thurles as a town turns into something much different on match day. From the player's point of view, try and give us an insight into that. Because I imagine it's tough to concentrate on the game when you're passing through such a crowd on the bus, and maybe you can kind of sense the atmosphere.
Yeah, I think that's only a good thing. So you get a great buzz as you drive through the square there, and you see all the supporters and the colour from both teams, your own county or maybe the opposition. It kind of gives you that little sense of pride and a sense of wanting to perform on the day. So as you drive down through the square and you see all the people that turn out to watch the game and the spirits therein, it only puts you in good form and excites you, I suppose. We do try to kind of drown it out a small bit. And like we always have to focus on the task at hand and our role and stuff like that. But there's no doubt in any stadium when maybe you might get the upper hand or the crowd gets behind you that you do feel that support and you do hear it, and it does inspire you. So the famous tip chant is a fan favourite there. So it gets you going.
Let's look ahead to the new season, which has already started because you've played in the McGrath Cup, but it really starts next weekend with the league. Now, I know you probably haven't been involved with Tipperary up until the last couple of days because you were involved with Ballina, your club, but I'd say you have discussed the hopes, the ambitions and the aims. Can you share with us what some of those are?
Yeah, so as you said, I've been a small bit removed from the group the past couple of weeks, but I'd be under no illusion of what our aims are. We're down in Division 4 now. It's a very tough division to get out of, but we're hoping to try and get out of that first and foremost and have a good run in the league. Then building into Championship, having had a good run in the league, it should set us up nicely for Championship. And I think I wouldn't be wrong in saying that all 4 counties, Tip, Waterford, Limerick and Clare, are eyeing up an opportunity of a Munster final appearance, given that Cork and Kerry are on the one side. So we're no different there. That was the draw in 2020. We knew a good league kind of got us in good form for the championship. So I imagine us and the three other counties are in the exact same boat.
In 2020, Tipperary won the Munster Senior Football title. In 2021, they ended up getting relegated to Division 4. Now, that's a place that no team wants to be.
Yeah, look, it's always tough to take. We may not have got the rub of the green in a couple of games, but look, there's enough games in the league to kind of turn it around and get out and survive. We were unfortunate. We didn't, and we ended up where we deserved, I suppose. So, look, we can have no complaints. It's hugely disappointing, especially given the highs of 2020. But it should be added motivation for us to kind of get back up to our winning ways.
And you certainly have the talent to do that. But is there a fear of not getting out of Division 4 this season and kind of becoming a Division 4 team, if that makes sense?
To be honest, Oisin, it's not. It's not something I would have talked about or even thought about, really. I have experience of playing Division 4 back in 2014. We were a Division 4 team. We happened to get out that year, but we went on and were unlucky to lose to Cork in a Munster semi-final below in Cork, and we went all the way to round 4 of the qualifiers. For, I think, the likes of Tip, it's a small bit different. We know we have the group of players and the talent is there, whether we're playing Division 4 or recently to Division 2 or 3. It doesn't bother us too much. We still take every game as it comes, and we'd be bullish in our approach, whether it's just a Division 2 team or whatever we face in Championship. We still back the group and believe we'll have a way to get over the line. Whether we do or not is a different story, but our status in our league doesn't come into it.
And is it all about the league this season? I've heard players and managers from counties in the lower league say our aim and our main focus in a season is the league. Is that the case for Tipperary?
The league is always important because you need to get a bit of run of form and get the confidence up and try win your first couple of games. But look, it's not the be all and end all. If we weren't to get out of Division 4 but got to a Munster final, I wouldn't see that as a bad year either. You know, while we do want to give it the respect it deserves and try to get out of it, it doesn't define your season, I don't think. So I would imagine the other counties would be the same.
What's your view on championship structures? We don't have to debate the proposals, but what I do want to ask you is, do you think change is inevitable, and is that a good thing?
Yeah, I think some change is probably needed. So we need to get probably more competitive games to, we'll say, the Division 3 and 4 teams especially. Anyone outside of the top 6 to 10 really. Because what you want is you want them championship days where you're driving down through Thurles and looking forward to a sunny championship game and stuff like that. Like, so the more opportunity you have to play them days, I see it as a good thing. But at the same time, I wouldn't want to lose the provincial championship. Obviously, for us being in Tipperary, it was unbelievable success in 2020. And I'm sure for other counties within our province that they would see that as a holy grail as well.
Do you think there needs to be room for the provincial championship? And do you think that provincial championship would mean as much if it was played between the league and championship but wasn't part of the main championship?
Oh, it's a tough one. Like I'd like to see it as part of it, because I do think you should get some reward for doing well in your province. So yeah, that I'd like to see it be some part of it.
Stephen O'Brien, thanks for joining us as FBD Insurance, Ireland's largest homegrown insurer, and Tipperary's Semple Stadium join forces. The 5-year deal will see the stadium renamed as FBD Stadium. Stephen, thank you.
Shane, thanks very much.
The Allianz League's starting next weekend. That's exciting for hurling and Gaelic football fans. And of course the League of Ireland coming back soon as well. We'll have a lot more on both next Monday. That's it from me. I'll talk to you next week. Remember, if you'd like to talk to us, we'd love to hear from you via Twitter at Extra Time News, or you can get me direct at Oisin Langan. Have a good week. Take care. Bye bye.